going home!
No, I ain't. Jumping with you guys.
This is a series where I play and talk about some old video games. Lately, I've been dusting off my Xbox 360 and getting back into some old favourites. I'll be replaying the first part of these games, and then we'll chat about what makes them special. Today, we're looking at one of the dying throes of a once great franchise. Developed by EA and DICE LA and released in 2007, we're going back in time to visit Europe and shoot at Axis forces again.
All airborne units, S2 reports an enemy motor in the vicinity of Pestum. You are hereby instructed to find and destroy all enemy fuel supplies.
I was curious to go back to this game because I grew up on games like Medal of Honor Allied Assault, Call of Duty 2, and Return to Castle Wolfenstein. World War II first-person shooters were the games that got me into the first-person shooter genre. And I had played Medal of Honor Airborne when it came out, but I didn't remember much about it before I went back into it this year. Having replayed the introduction to Medal of Honor Airborne again, 3 things stick out in my mind. The presentation is superb. The level mechanics are ahead of their time, and the controls are bafflingly terrible. We'll tackle them in that order. Let's start with the presentation.
Jumping out of an airplane is one of the safest things a man can do, provided he follows proper procedure. When the red light goes green, you jump! Follow the man in front of you! Don't stop! Don't think! Go, 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 go!
The lighting in the plane, the sunset, the uplifting music, the voice work of the drop master, and the in-world location text as you drop down are all really good indicators of the care and attention to detail that the team has put into creating this game.
Deploy your chute automatically!
If you cock up your landing, the animation and the sound design are impactful and sell you on the finer details of the world.
You're headed for a bind, you can manipulate the risers and steer away from obstacles.
If you haven't already picked up on it, I'm big on audio and I love good sound. For example, I think the mission briefing in the tent in this little first level is a delightful soundscape. Sitting in the tent, getting a briefing on where you're going to drop and focusing not on the information in front of you but on the sound, there's actually a lot of detail going on here.
The second is located just beyond the northeast gate leading out of the village. The final 2
There's the dull yells of soldiers doing drills, the rumble of vehicles moving about from place to place, and the murmur of crickets. It sounds like you're on a base. It's understated and it's well executed, and I bet the vast majority of people that play this game don't even notice it.
Dismiss.
Sound design and audio is one of those things where if it works and it's really well done, often you don't notice it at all.
Hey! Over here! Grenade!
Other flourishes in the presentation I appreciate are the slow motion moments when you level up one of your guns. The fact that headshots can knock helmets off enemies, and that grenades kick up a good whack of dust and debris, and getting mealeed blurs your vision and shifts things to grayscale. Medal of Honor is a series that prides itself on quality, linear campaigns with impressive set pieces based on real, historic events. The folks at EA DICE Studios have ticked those boxes here. However, they do manage to successfully twist the linear part of that formula with a new mechanic. Now that I've talked about the presentation, it's time to chat about our next point, the level mechanics. Level mechanics is a bullshit phrase, and I'm not sure if it's a real one, but I'm using it because I want to talk about something that is half level design and half gameplay mechanic. I want to talk about the airborne part of this Medal of Honor game. Paratrooping, on its own, is a fun gameplay mechanic. There's just enough depth to make it interesting. Instead of pointing yourself at the ground, you've actually got to deal with your approach angle, your speed, flaring your chute, and greasing your landing. Stuffing up puts you in danger if you're landing hot.
Fire up there! What are you waiting for? Move!
Nailing a landing keeps you on your feet and gets your weapon up swiftly.
Much faster.
Paratrooping, combined with the open level design, is a revelation for a 2007 first-person shooter. Levels in Medal of Honor Airborne are built with a hub and sector design that gives you freedom to tackle objectives in any order that you want. You spawn or begin missions in your aircraft and can drop wherever you would like to. There are safe areas designated with green smoke, but everywhere else you land, you're at risk of dropping into a firefight without allies around you. Across the map, there are also skill drop points, like clock towers and rooftops that are harder to hit, but put you close to objectives and give you a position of advantage over your enemies. It's a good risk-reward combined with the actual gameplay challenge of landing smoothly and working your way to objectives. Objectives themselves are fairly simple. Eliminate the anti-aircraft guns, take out the officers. Having the freedom to approach them in any order and approach the geography of the map from above provides a really unique perspective and a great feeling of control over how you tackle each level. There's a verticality to the world here that I really appreciate. Even though on the ground you get funneled into firefights and linear corridors through buildings and streetscapes towards objectives, the clever paratrooping mechanic that gets you into the mission and back into the action if you die feels well and truly beyond its time. Even modern AAA linear games like God of War, Last of Us 2 and Gears 5 only feel like they've just discovered that players really do enjoy that contained hub or small open world sections where you give players the freedom to tackle objectives in any order they want before they ultimately progress to the next stage of the game.
When I first heard about making a game about Airborne, I honestly thought there's no way this is ever going to work. And then we started to really look into the idea of what it meant to jump out of an airplane, and kind of through a lot of prototyping, a lot of working in the editor, various editors, we kind of came upon the solution that, hey, you know what? Starting anywhere in an FPS is something that has never been done before. So
that's the level mechanics. Surprisingly modern for a game about blasting Nazis. Medal of Honor Airborne also pushes the envelope when it comes to controls. This experiment is a failure. The primary issue with the controls in Medal of Honor Airborne is the aiming control scheme. It is garbage. Usually in a first-person shooter, the left trigger aims down sights and the left analog stick controls player movement, or strafing. For some reason, the default control scheme uses the left trigger to aim down iron sights, but the left analog stick is used for leaning and peeking, which keeps you static. What this creates is an unhappy medium between zippy movement shooters like Doom and Quake, and more thoughtful stop and pop stuff from cover shooters like Gears of War or Rainbow Six Vegas. I think I get what they were going for. They wanted something close to a cover system, but without having to do the work to implement a cover system. Cover systems come with a lot of extra environmental and animation work, like how Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway has to pull to third person whenever you get into cover. At this point in game making in the mid-2000s, stuff like contextual peeking and mounting weapons on surfaces isn't there yet, so they have this weird system that they've created. Unfortunately, it breaks the flow of combat. If you're bobbing up and down behind cover, trying to take shots, but you're unable even to move left or right beneath a window or on a fence line or whatever piece of cover that you're actually using to shoot off. It's bobbing up and down and springing out left and right without the mobility that is really critical to first-person shooters and that simple strafing left and right. It would have been passable for these controls if that particular peeking thing was an additional option. Unfortunately, they sacrifice strafing in the default control scheme completely. You can go into the control menu, select a different control scheme to unlock strafing, but even then that's a real battle. The other control schemes that involve strafing, you've got to hold down another button anyway. So for example, in order to strafe, you've got to hold down the left stick, the left trigger, and the right trigger to aim down sights and strafe from left to right. Awful. It's frustrating because basic aim down sight strafing is there, and it works, but because you can't remap for the buttons on the controls for console, you're stuck using the default control scheme with peeking and leaning but no strafing whatsoever. Or you use the alternate control scheme, where you have to press down 3 buttons at once if you want to aim down sights, strafe, and fire on someone. All the other controls in the game aren't terrible. You've got your jump, your crouch, and there's a sprint button that could do with a toggle, but otherwise it's all serviceable stuff, particularly given the year this game came out. So that's really it for me whinging about the controls. So, to sum up my 3 main points about Medal of Honor Airborne. It's a beautifully presented game with progressive level design based around its unique and well-implemented paratrooper mechanic, all of which is unfortunately soured by a bit of a weird control scheme. More games, especially linear first-person shooters, would do well to experiment with mechanics and gameplay features. Other games from this generation I'd like to speak about in the future are Time Shift and The Darkness, both of which are largely typical FPSs, but they're made special by mechanical or stylistic innovations that are on par with what Medal of Honor was doing here with its paratrooping mechanic. The paratrooping in Medal of Honor Airborne is its best thing going for it. The paratrooping in Medal of Honor is a creative and unique feature that adds a genuinely enjoyable layer to a tidy but otherwise plain World War II first-person shooter experience. I can't give the game a hearty recommendation, but I think Medal of Honor Airborne does deserve credit for its paratrooping level mechanic being ahead of its time and injecting a fresh twist into the World War II shooter scene.
The drop allows the player to do a lot of things that in replay is just going to be a lot of fun.
Thanks for listening. Take care.